Attention world! The latest news from Israel, 3 spine-chilling prophetic events have just taken place, and the world is left in shock. These terrifying incidents have shocked the nation to its core, and are sending shivers down the spines of those who have witnessed them. Let us uncover the truth behind these apocalyptic occurrences, and explore what they mean for the future of Israel and the world. Are you ready to face the truth and discover the dark secrets that lie ahead? Without any further delay, let's get started. Chapter: Rebuilding of Temple. Is progress being made today on reconstructing the temple? Israel's claims to any part of Jerusalem, let alone the Temple Mount, are met with widespread international opposition. Israeli legislation prohibits Jews from worshiping there, and Muslims, including the women in black, keep a continual vigil to discourage Jewish visitors. The Islamic authorities also claim there was never a temple there. Recent advances, however, have helped the temple movement achieve its goals and make it possible to restore the temple in our day. The Al-Aqsa Mosque, which Muslims believe was constructed by Abraham, is on the site of a Jewish ritual cleansing site, which researchers uncovered decades ago in response to the allegation of denying a Jewish temple ever existed on the site. British archaeologist Robert Hamilton provided proof of this in a paper detailing his investigations of the mosque's foundations following its destruction by an earthquake in 1927. He uncovered a Jewish mikveh, ritual pool used for cleansing, beneath the mosque's floor. It was used by Jews for ritual immersion before accessing the Temple Mount complex during the Second Temple era. These discoveries, which were buried in the British mandatory archives because they would offend Muslim officials, now show that the old temple was located on the site of the contemporary Temple Mount, a holy site for Jews. The Sanhedrin was taken the necessary precautions to resume temple services shortly. The group has been working on several different projects, one of which is planting the forest described in the Bible to provide for the Third Temple's agricultural needs. Speaking for the Sanhedrin, Rabbi Hillel Weiss said, "When people think about sacrifices, they think about animals and blood, but most were from plants grown around Israel. The temple was a conduit between the people and the divine." Rabbi Richman, a member of the Sanhedrin, has been at the helm of an initiative to bring the holy red heifer back to Israel. Purifying Jews to prepare them for temple service requires the ashes of the red heifer to be mixed with water, as described in Numbers 19. Only 9 red heifers were ever used to make the waters used to purify Jews between the time of the First and Second Temples, a period of roughly 1,000 years. The Jewish Messiah is prophesied to use the 10th one. Together with an Israeli cattleman who is an expert in the science of animal husbandry, Richman and other rabbis of the Temple Institute are providing halachic supervision and guidance. He is using a method that involves implanting frozen embryos of North American Red Angus cattle into Israeli domestic cattle. To participate in the red heifer rite, a heifer must be born in the land of Israel and cannot ever have been yoked. This work is the result of years of study at the Temple Institute, where old religious texts were combined with cutting-edge scientific methods. Kohanim, members of the priestly caste, are trained through reenactments of temple ceremonies held by the Sanhedrin and the temple movement. Learning how to use the ritual utensils made specifically for the Third Temple and gaining experience with the freshly built altar of burnt offerings are all part of this training. Because the people of Israel are obligated to construct an altar only on the site of the original altar on Mount Moriah, the Temple Mount, this altar is one of a kind in that it was designed to be dismantled and quickly reassembled in its proper permanent location. In due time, it will be rebuilt atop the Temple Mount so that sacrifices might once again be offered. Rebuilding the temple is the sole solution, according to Orthodox Jews who are dedicated to the cause and to the challenges of the world and the Jewish people. While the temple movement continues to make preparations for the rebuilding of the temple, most members recognize that political action is needed to change the current situation of Muslim control of the Mount and allow for Jewish access. This might be happening right now. When asked about the site, Israel's highest court said, "The reality on the Temple Mount is by no means simple, from its judgment opinion on the issue of the works on the Temple Mount. It's a really sensitive and intricate matter. The Temple Mount is ours. That is to say, we need a political move, not a legal one. A future political leader, the Antichrist of Revelation 13, will form a false covenant with Jewish officials that will lead to the construction of the Third Temple, according to Daniel's prophecy of the 70th week. As we eagerly await the return of our Messiah, it is thrilling to watch these preparations for the Third Temple take shape in the land of Israel." Chapter: Messiah of the Siloam Pool. How mysterious the festival must appear to those who aren't familiar with either its modern rituals or its biblical foundations. Feasts were originally meant to serve as reminders of important events. Instruct the Israelis. On the 15th of this 7th month is the Feast of Booths for 7 days to the Lord. All the native born in Israel shall live in booths, that your generations may remember that I had the sons of Israel reside in booths when I carried them out of the land of Egypt. You will recognize me as your God, the Lord. The verses in Leviticus 23:34, 42, and 43 states. The entire festival of Sukkot was dedicated to remembering God's deliverance of his people from slavery and his provision for them in the wilderness. The Mishna provides a thorough account of how to construct a booth for the holiday, a tradition that is still strictly adhered to by modern Jews. The biblical feast of Sukkot was the happiest of the year since the harvest was complete. After giving thanks to God for his provision, the people would begin to anticipate the later rains. Sukkot, a Hebrew word, is translated as booths or tabernacles in the English Bible. Sadducees of the Second Temple period gathered branches from leafy trees and willows to build their booths as the Bible commanded. The Pharisees, however, saw in the vegetation metaphors for the sacrifices that worshippers would make at the altar. The rabbis agreed that the citron or etrog, held in the worshipper's left hand, best fulfilled the fruit requirement of Leviticus 23:40. Right-handers would have access to palms, willows, and myrtles. During Sukkot, hundreds of thousands of people flocked to the western wall in present-day Jerusalem, many of them bearing the 4 species. Additional sacrifices of sin offerings and burnt offerings were also commanded at the Feast of Tabernacles, which Jews are celebrating this year near the Pool of Siloam. A priest would fill a golden pitcher with water from the Pool of Siloam before the morning sacrifice, accompanied by music and the recitation of Isaiah 12:3. This recent occurrence is known as Simchat Bet Hashiva. The priest would refill his pitcher at Siloam and then return to the Temple Mount via Central Valley Road. When he arrived at the temple, he would pour water into one of the silver basins that stood beside the altar. For a long time, people thought that the higher pool at the exit of Hezekiah's tunnel was the Pool of Siloam. This pool wasn't even built until the 5th century AD, but it wasn't discovered until the turn of the 20th century. Workers digging a sewer line in 2004 came across the ancient Pool of Siloam, which dates back to the time of the Second Temple. Only a small portion of this bottom pool's length has been revealed so far, but the north side is entirely visible. Foreshadowing the future Feast of Tabernacles, when all nations will gather on Jerusalem's Temple Mount to celebrate Israel's conquering Messiah, Sukkot was a time to recall God's previous favor on Israel. Jesus may have followed the Second Temple era practice of sprinkling water on the final and holiest day of Sukkot for this reason. Jesus made an analogy between the necessity of water and the gift of the Holy Spirit that he promised to all who put their faith in him. A verse from Isaiah 12:3 had been sung. That's why you'll drink from the wells of redemption with joy. Isaiah foretold the praises that Israel would sing to the Lord on that day, referring to the millennial kingdom of the Messiah. The prophecy of Isaiah 12 could be considered in this context. There's a lot of power in its brevity. Today, the same salvation is available to anyone who believes in Jesus Christ for the forgiveness of sins. Chapter: The Battle of Armageddon. The Battle of Armageddon is a name that has been given to the final fight that will take place between God and the governments of humanity. These governments and the people who support them have not repented their rebellion against God by acknowledging his sovereignty over the world, but they continue to do so nevertheless. Daniel 2:44, this passage predicts that after the Battle of Armageddon, human dominion over the earth would come to an end. The only place in the Bible where the word Armageddon appears is in verse 16 of the book of Revelation. The prophetic book of Revelation depicts the place that is called in Hebrew Armageddon, which is the location where the kings of the entire inhabited earth would come together to fight the great war on the great day of God the Almighty. Bible verse Revelation 16:14. Who among us will take up arms during the Armageddon? An army in heaven, led by Jesus Christ, will one day triumph over those who oppose God and his plans. According to those scriptures, these adversaries include people who disbelieve in the authority of God and hold him in contempt. Will the decisive battle for Armageddon take place in the Middle East or somewhere else in the region? No. According to Jeremiah 25:32-34 and Ezekiel 39:17-20, the Battle of Armageddon will not be confined to a single spot, but will instead take place all over the world. The word Armageddon, which comes from the Hebrew phrase Har Megiddon, literally means mountain of Megiddo. This is where the biblical Battle of Megiddo took place. Megiddo was once a city that resided in the territory that belonged to ancient Israel at one point in time. It is thought that this region was the site of numerous significant battles at various times and places throughout history, some of which are referenced in the Bible. These conflicts are said to have taken place at a variety of points in time. There is no way that the area close to ancient Megiddo could be a genuine connection to the Battle of Armageddon. There is not a mountain of major size there, and even the entirety of the low plain of Jezreel, which is adjacent to it, would not be enough space to contain all of the people who will fight against God. Armageddon, on the other hand, is a reference to a worldwide situation in which nations from all over the world come together for one final rebellion against the dominion of God. When Armageddon finally arrives, what sort of conditions can we anticipate? God will have access to weapons identical to those he has used in the past, even if we do not know how he would use his power. Hail, earthquakes, floods, downpours, fire and sulfur, lightning, and illnesses are all examples of such weapons. Job, Ezekiel, Habakkuk, and Zechariah all make similar points. Some of God's enemies may kill each other as a result of the chaos, but eventually they will realize that God is the only one they should be fearing, as in Ezekiel 38:21, 23, Zechariah 14:13. Will Armageddon bring the end of the world? This is not the end of the planet because Earth is mankind's eternal home. Another way of putting it is found in Ecclesiastes. To put it another way, Armageddon won't be the end of the world since a great crowd of God's followers will survive. This is emphasized in both Psalm 37:34 and Revelation 7:9-14. The Bible uses the word world to describe both our earth and an evil, God-hating human culture. This is what we mean when we say that Armageddon will be the end of the world. Matthew 24:3 in the King James Version. If the world is going to end, when will it happen? No one knows, not even the angels in heaven, not even the Son, but only the Father, Jesus said. The Great Tribulation preceding the Battle of Armageddon is the subject here. But the Bible depicts Armageddon happening in 1914, during Jesus' mysterious reappearance. That's all for the video. We will be right back with more such videos. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching our video today, and we will see you in the next one.